Let's go.
Welcome to Five on the Floor. Just kidding. Friends of Five. Welcome, Mr. Zane Pitman. He's our guest. I'm here with Simba Sports, Matthew, Lazarus Sport. My name is Ryan. Thank you for taking time. You are a Milwaukee Bucks writer. You are, not just that, but you're a sports writer. So, we have a ton of questions for you. I guess Matthew will get started, and we look forward to having a fun time.
All right, so Kane, you're basically the host of Locked On Bucks, right?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit interesting the last couple of months because it's along with all the Locked On podcasts, it's a daily podcast. So we've still been running daily, even though there's been no basketball on. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's fun. It's good.
All right, sounds good. So basically, we're gonna start off with some questions for you, right? So when this whole coronavirus thing started, right, and the NBA was basically saying there might not be a season anymore for this year, right? They were saying we might have to cancel. What did that mean for everybody in the Bucks organization, every Bucks fan? Like, was there going to be an uproar? Like, how much did that hurt?
Yeah, well, if you talk to any Wisconsin sports fan, they'll tell you that Wisconsin sports are cursed, and every time something good is about to happen, something gets in the way of it. And, after last year, they had such a great season, made it to the conference finals, and made such a big step. I mean, I think for most people, once they were able to step away and take a look at the season in totality, they're like, well, this was a pretty fun run. And it's the first step in what you hope you're going to be able to go and win a championship. So to be on pace for 70 wins for almost the entire season, and now this is the way it might continue. If this is the way that it ended, I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I want to jump in real quick. So Giannis, was doing magical things once again. Probably, one or two in the MVP race. The East looked like it was going to be between the Bucks, the Celtics, maybe the Raptors. Is there any doubt in your mind that the Bucks would not have been represented the East in the NBA Finals this year?
Well, I always, we learned last year that you don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs. My big thing when I looked at the teams that were contending, and I think you're right. I mean, Philadelphia was a team coming into the season that everyone thought was going to be right there with Milwaukee. They've obviously had their struggles. So I think heading into the postseason and what we've seen during the regular season, it was going to be Toronto, probably Boston, and your guys, Miami, who are, I think, surprised a lot of people with a bunch of young guys that were playing at a really high level. I still felt, and maybe we'll find out if I'm wrong, but I still felt that the Bucks were on another level over the course of a 7-game series. We saw they lost some games, and you guys have beat them twice. The only team to beat them twice during the season, but I still thought, from what we saw on the basis of the 60+ games we've seen, that they were able to go to another level.
Do you think that the only reason why the Heat beat the Bucks twice is it just a mismatch, or we just matched up well against the Bucks, or do you think that we just had the right plan for the Bucks, that anybody can do it as long as you have some sort of right bodies for it, or do you think it was just that we just presented problems physically, mismatch wise, for the Bucks?
Well, the Heat are really well coached, and it's one thing that I always think of when I think about Miami is Eric Spoelstra, who really over the last couple of seasons finally has been able to get out of the shadow of coaching the LeBron teams, where you can't really get credit if you're the coach of those teams because everyone expects you to be good. So I think the last couple of seasons we've seen how good a coach he really is, and he's in the top bracket. So I think that the fact that has the ability to try different things defensively, and you've got a really talented team on that end, and that's where it starts with the Bucks. First of all, you have to hope that they miss shots. That's the reality. I mean, almost every time the Bucks lost this season, they shot poorly from three. And secondly, you have to at least have a guy that can maybe slow down Giannis. And Miami do in Bam Adebayo, who this season has gone to another level. So again, I kind of laugh at it, and I'm hesitant to say that Bam is even a good matchup for Giannis, for a guy that's going to stop him over 7 games, because we've seen it. It doesn't really happen. I mean, we saw the Raptors last year. That was literally a 4-person job when they had Kawhi, they had Marc Gasol, they had Pascal Siakam there as well. So they were throwing 4 guys at him. So one guy is not going to stop Giannis But in that last game in particular, Miami were really, really, really physical with the Bucks, and it's particularly with Giannis. And Bam is an impressive young guy. He's only going to get better. But I think as for why you beat them twice, just two separate games. I mean, the first game was the second game of the season. And if you guys remember, Giannis actually had a monster game that one, but fouled out in overtime. And then from there, once he was out of the game, the Miami were able to run away with it. So to answer your question, I would be very interested to see how they go across the 7-game series. I think it might be a little bit different, but Miami's tough. Tough team.
Oh, we'll circle back to the Heat versus Bucks 7-game series, but I know Ryan has a couple questions for you.
Yeah. All right. So in this case, let's say the season starts. Let's say it finishes up again, and it doesn't work out in your favor, and now Giannis is tempted to leave, this and that. So they have to rebuttal for the following year. Do you think Chris Middleton is probably the first one to go as far as a trade chip, or how would you possibly revamp the roster in order to keep Giannis, intrigued in order to either re-sign or just to actually go to the finals?
Well, I actually thought it's interesting how this has played out, because I actually thought prior to the season shutting down that the only way that Giannis is going to leave Milwaukee is if the Bucks have a playoff disaster this season, and maybe they lose in the second round or earlier. We don't know if they're even going to have a chance to have that now. So when you look at the Bucks, if you're Giannis and you're sitting there and you're looking at this team right now, best record in the NBA, they're still 3.5 games ahead of the Lakers. It's not like you're sitting there and saying, well, okay, I need to get to a better position to win, because they've built the roster around him, and as it stands, they have the best team in the NBA. So are they going to win the championship? We don't know. Maybe not. They might not get to the finals. They might not be able to beat one of those LA teams. But I think as far as the situation goes, I don't think there's much more the Bucks could have done with what they had. So I think it will be dependent on what happens in the playoffs if the season comes back. The only thing I will say is that, as you guys know, he's still got 1 year on the contract, and there is no way. I don't care what anyone's saying about trades and coming up with. The Bucks are not trading Giannis. Okay, let's just forget about that.
I don't think that's going to happen either. I don't think you can. There's Ryan with this. Ryan's ready for Giannis to come to Miami.
See this?
That's you got too much money, man. You got too much money, man. I wouldn't be wasting my money on that.
I don't think there's any way the Bucks can trade the Giannis. I don't think that as a team they would ever survive fans if they ever traded Giannis. I do think that there's a chance that they could lose Giannis if things don't go correctly. But before that, are there any players that you think, going on top of Ryan's question, are there any players that you think might be better suited to help Giannis and the Bucks acquire that finals champ? Because when I was looking at it, I don't know if Chris Middleton is going to be that piece to really help Giannis. I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I actually think he is a great player. I think he did take a bunch of steps up. I just don't know if he's going to be the guy that carries you. If everybody, for example, the Heat, what we did was, from my personal view, was let's just stop Giannis. We'll worry about the rest of the Bucks later. Let's stop Giannis, and we'll make the rest of the Bucks beat us. That didn't happen, right? So is there another piece that might be better than Chris Middleton? I was thinking, and I know Ryan knows this, I was thinking Chris Paul. I think that might be interesting to see a Chris Paul and a Giannis work together. There might be other better pieces, but I do think that that could help out. Is there any players that you have in mind that you would say, yeah, this would be perfect for the team,
Well, the Bucks are in a tough position because last summer they locked up a lot of these guys. Chris Middleton obviously signed the $178 million deal, so he's owed well over $30 million for the next 4 seasons. Brook Lopez, they locked up to a 4-year deal. Eric Bledsoe, they've got for a couple more seasons. So George Hill as well. So the problem for the Bucks is they're going to have to trade one of those big dollar players if they are to make a move. Now, I don't know whether the Bucks are going to be trading Chris Middleton. He's coming off a second All-Star season. He's in there currently as it stands on track to average over 20 points per game, 50, 40, 90. The only guys that have done that Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Larry Bird, and Dirk. So he's having a pretty incredible season.
He is, yeah.
The concern is Eric Bledsoe. You guys know.
He's a very from what it looks like, I don't think he's not a bad player. I think he's a very emotional player. So I think that if you get in his head, he can have the worst game that you could be like, this is a G League player. But if he has the right mindset, he could play. He's playing all-star level, and we've seen it a bunch of times where Eric Bledsoe can take over a game. You know.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he's a guy that I actually. People are a lot harder on him than me. I think he's been fantastic for the Bucks. Regular season, he's been incredible. Unfortunately, he's had some tough moments in the postseason. But I thought last year, particularly in that second-round series against the Celtics, he played really well. I don't take a lot from the Raptors series because he wasn't alone in guys that struggled once things went wrong for the Bucks in that series. So, I mean, ultimately, I don't think the Bucks are going to put themselves in a position where they're going to trade for Chris Paul. But remember, I mean, they're going to run with this roster again next season. They've put their faith in these guys. There's no real reason for them to step away from that in year 2 or year 3, it would be, of that group being together. And the year after, let's be honest, if they don't sign Giannis, it doesn't really matter. And that's the reality. So after that, do whatever you want. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, we can't hear you, Ryan. Ryan's going to fix himself real quick.
He's back. I heard something.
Yeah, I heard something. No, I heard a click.
Yeah.
What about now?
Yeah, perfect. There you go. All right. Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
Yeah, I cut his sound. Once he turned around with that jersey on, I cut his sound. I didn't want to hear him anymore.
He acquired the Milwaukee curse.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I guess he's gonna come back real quickly. Can you talk about how you got into? Because I know you're from Australia, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, real quickly, tell us how you got working with Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, it happened pretty quickly for me. I was doing some sort of blogging on the side, and I was fortunate enough that there was a number of people that sort of liked what I was doing and suggested maybe you could take the step and go over to the US. At the time, I've always liked the Bucks anyway. Ray Allen's my favorite player. I'm sure you guys are pretty fond of Ray as well. He's my favorite player. So from his time in Milwaukee. So I always liked the Bucks. They've obviously had an Australian connection as well with Andrew Bogut. And at the time when I moved there, Dally and Thon Maker were on the roster as well. So they had 2 Australians. So for me, it made sense to go to Milwaukee. I was going to be able to sell some work, make some money back home in Australia. Unfortunately, both those guys got traded within the first few months of me moving from Australia to Milwaukee. Wow. But I stuck with it because, I've been fortunate enough when you get to watch Giannis every day. It's a pretty cool gig.
You guys can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Yeah, watching Giannis must be a treat. But I guess what I was saying before I lost my audio, and that's a great story you had right there, is essentially, let's say Giannis is not committed, and we find this out, you think they should, will they trade him, or will they pull like a Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors and play out the season? What do you foresee if, in that case?
Well, the big thing is with Giannis, he's never, ever going to be a guy that's going to quit on a team or not try or have that attitude. He's just not built that way. So even if Giannis, in his mind, decided that he didn't want to play with the Bucks, which, again, I mean, it's hard for me to envision that happening. But if he was in that situation, I just don't think that he's the guy that's going to quit. So if you're the Bucks, it's like, well, are we going to trade Giannis, or are we going to wait until the very last second, hope that we win the title next season, and then convince him to stay? It makes no sense to trade him, and I think you ride it out and give yourself the best chance to win the championship, which is with him.
Yeah. So you guys, if definitely this year, next year looks good. All right. And I know you don't want to talk about this too much, but I just want to touch on it briefly. If Giannis does leave in free agency after the 21 season, where do you think, or what teams do you fear he might be most interested in, up front?
Yeah, I mean, just with him, the first thing I always think of when I think of Giannis is family. It's always important to him. What's going to be a good situation for his family, and also who does he have a relationship with? And I think for that reason, Toronto, obviously, I think a lot of people is maybe the team that makes the most sense because of the connection he has with Masai Ujiri up there. Now, if he for some reason decided to make the crazy decision to go to New York, then maybe New York comes into the picture. There's a big Greek community in New York, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't think or really picture him going anywhere else other than maybe Toronto. I don't know. That's the only option I have in my head, and even that I struggle to see.
I think you're forgetting one place. I think you're forgetting one place.
There's a really nice market. There it is.
There's one place you're forgetting, and that is Miami. Okay, so, I think
that's a shirt. That's a shirt by the 5 Reasons.
We have that 5 Reasons.
5 Reasons Sports Network. We're all in on Giannis coming in 21.
I know you're wondering right now, Kane, where's that shirt? Where can I get this? I want to be the first one on board. You can buy that at 5reasonsports.com. In our merchandise, Giannis Bam 21. That's where you can find him, man.
That's a beautiful, beautiful shirt.
You guys have really set me up. This is
no.
Setup.
Not at all. Now.
You don't think Miami's a realistic landing spot for Giannis?
I don't. I don't. I will say the only thing that I will give Miami credit for is the fact that I think for any team, and the Bucks have never been in this situation because they haven't had a superstar player going through free agency. But Pat Riley, man, this morning I actually on my podcast I had Mo Williams on the podcast, and Mo went back to free agency all the way back in 2007. And he said that he went down to Miami and actually thought he left that meeting saying, I'm going to play for the Heat because Pat Riley was the coach at the time. You guys were just coming off the championship. And then Milwaukee just offered him too much money that he stayed in the end. But Pat Riley, man, you gotta be careful of that guy.
What's the last free agent that Milwaukee was able to really biggest free agent? Because I think the last one I can remember is that Greg Monroe. I think that was a huge deal the last when they signed him, because it was he
went to the Pistons and then he got released and then picked up as a free agent, I believe.
Greg Monroe. So the big thing around the Greg Monroe signing was that the 3 teams that were talking to him at the time was New York, LA, and Milwaukee. So automatically everyone's like, well, he's not going to Milwaukee. No free agent has ever gone to Milwaukee. Yeah. It's too cold. People don't want to live there through the winter. And so him choosing Milwaukee was a big moment. It didn't really work out.
It didn't work out.
I mean, Jason Kidd was the coach at the time, and I don't think they got along very well, and it didn't work out. But still, that moment of signing was a big step for the franchise. It's still a big moment.
So what do you think? So was there any other? So do you think that there's a weakness in free agency for Milwaukee? You think that the only way that the team can really get players is through trade and draft?
Well, maybe, but until you had a guy like Giannis, because if you think about the last couple of seasons and around the league, if you have a superstar player, you can attract guys. And the thing that Milwaukee has going for them right now, brand new practice facility, brand new arena, and if you look at the veteran players. And you guys know from the LeBron years, if you have a superstar, you attract those minimum contract guys that everyone wants. The Bucks have been able to get Kyle Korver when a bunch of contenders wanted him to come. This year in the buyout market, they got Marvin Williams, a guy that all the contenders wanted, and he chose to play in Milwaukee. So guys actually now look at Milwaukee as a favorable place to come because of Giannis. So, I mean, it depends who you've got. If Giannis leaves, no. But right now, the fact they're a contender, it's an attractive place to play.
I like it. And then, of course, they have Christian Yelich. Yeah, Christian Yelich on the other side of town.
That was they basically stole Christian Yelich from Miami because what was the guy that we got? The
Lewis Brinson, Monte Harrison.
Oh my god, dude! I wish the guy was really good. It would have been a great story. He's from Miami, hometown hero. Didn't end up working out, but that's all right.
It's payback. It's payback. I'm not actually a Brewers fan, so I can't pretend that I'm that excited that deal. But yeah, suck at Miami.
Fair enough. We're gonna be saying the same thing, but opposite ends in just a couple more years.
Suck it, my
hey,
man. I want to see you say that when Giannis comes here, and you have to wear this.
Kane,
and then as soon as he comes here, you're gonna buy. I'll buy you the shirt, and you're gonna wear it on this live.
You could be a Heat fan then. But Kane, did you see? So they did like an all-time starting five for the Bucks, and I did a majority of teams. I don't know if it was ESPN, but it was on Twitter. They had Oscar Robinson for the Bucks. Then they had Sidney Moncrief, Ray Allen, Giannis, and then Kareem as the top five. I've never heard of Sidney Moncrief. Do you think that? Have you or what's the story behind him?
He's a legend, Hall of Famer. Jerseys in the rafters in Milwaukee. Sidney Moncrief, one of the greats. And the Bucks in the '80s, a team that consistently won 50 games. I think 5-6 years in a row they won 50 games. They were always in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they kept running into the Celtics team in the postseason through the
Those
80s,
guys.
who were really tough, and the Sixers in the early 80s. So, yeah, those Bucks teams were incredible. Marcus Johnson, the guy who still does the call for the Bucks, was an all-star through those years. They had a number of big-name players. Unfortunately, much like teams in the West with Golden State in the last few years, if you're good, it doesn't really matter because the Warriors were just better.
There.
Because we're going to talk about Heat versus Bucks, but before that, are there any other teams that the Bucks might be worried about? Because I think that no matter how good you are, no matter how great of a team you are, there are always some teams that present problems to your teams. Even the big three had it when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant were good. They still worried, a little bit about the Rockets and everybody. There's always some sort of worry. Who were the Bucks kind of worried about matching up against that they were kind of hoping somebody else would knock them out for them?
Well, the Sixers are still the interesting team for me. They've really struggled and kind of similar to Miami. They've been a really, really good home team, but struggled on the road. And the funny thing is, if basketball comes back, there's going to be no home court advantage. There's going to be no travel. So for teams like Miami and Philadelphia that really struggled on the road, maybe that's not a factor. So that's interesting to me. And we saw it on Christmas Day. I mean, the thing with the Sixers is they have Joel Embiid, one of the best defensive big men in the league. Now, can he stay healthy, and is he able to go 7 games with Giannis coming at him? That's something I would have some concerns about. But the other thing is they've got Ben Simmons, who is a great matchup and a really tough matchup for Chris Middleton on the wing, Matisse Thybulle, Al Horford. Just defensively, they've got just a number of guys, much like Toronto did last season. So I think Philadelphia is a team to watch for sure.
That's the only team? For real?
You don't think the Celtics?
Well, the Celtics. The problem with the Celtics, they don't have a big guy. And when we saw last year, even when they had Al Horford, the Bucks rolled through the Celtics in 5 games, and they literally just could not stop Giannis. And over the course of a 7-game series, I don't care. The guys on the wing that they have, Jason Tatum can score whatever he wants. You're not going to slow down Giannis. So the Celtics, for me, a really good team. Again, really well coached, but I don't see an answer for him.
Yeah, I can agree that I think the Celtics present more problems for other teams. I don't think the Bucks are one of those teams. I think that I don't see the Celtics as a length team. I see them as a smaller team, and I think that they weren't going to be as good as they weren't going to match well against the Bucks. But I do see what you're saying about the 76ers matching up well against the Bucks, because I think all of their players, it's a requirement in order to be a 76er. Your wingspan has to be double your height or something like that.
Well, right now, if you look at it right now, just say the season ended and the standings stayed the same. The first round will be Boston versus Philadelphia, and we've seen this before. Joel Embiid against the Celtics is an absolute monster. So I'm not even sure the Celtics get out of the first round, and that would be obviously a huge upset. But a really good team is going to get knocked out in the first round. That's the way it is.
True. It happens every year. So,
well, are you familiar with the guy from Milwaukee? His name is Tyler Hero.
Yeah, he can shoot a little bit. I'm not sure whether I would pull off his haircut. Looks like he's doing a thing, but yeah.
I don't even know we had that picture stored.
Do people in Australia have that haircut, or that's not an Australia thing?
It's not all that common, I would say. By the way, that Miami Hurricanes sweater, I had that once upon a time. I had that in the
Yeah. Oh man, next time we're gonna have you on so we can talk some Hurricanes then.
All right.
That's cool. So let's talk a Heat versus Bucks series, right? you think ultimately the Bucks are going to win?
Realistically, I would say what, Bucks in 5?
Yeah. I mean, probably 6. I mean, the Heat are a good team, and the one thing about the Heat is they're going to play you hard. That's the thing. I tell you what, my main concern with the Heat is, and we would see what happens, or we're about to see what happens if the NBA comes back, is there is a heavy reliance on young guys. Obviously, with not that Kendrick Nunn's that young, but he's a rookie, Tyler Hero, and then obviously Duncan Robinson. So I mean, when you're relying on those guys who have played so well through the season, I was concerned that maybe they were going to get to the playoffs and be fatigued. Now, they've had 2 months off. Maybe that works in their favor, and that's something that's interesting to know. Also, the fact that there's going to be no crowds, maybe there's not the same pressure. I mean, all these things are interesting to look at.
Yeah, I had a different worry with our young guys. I think that spotlight, big moment, playoffs is a different, kind of animal. But the one guy that I don't think that I ever had to worry about, and I think many Heat fans ever had to worry about, is Tyler Hero performing in it. I mean, that guy will take the biggest shots in basketball and in women. Like, I don't know if you his Twitter lately. Tyler Hero is shooting. All right, he's going for that lives in Miami. He loves it. I can't imagine that he doesn't love it here. But I don't think I had to worry about Tyler Hero. I don't. Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson. I think you saw him in the NBA weekend. His 3-point contest. That the moment can't catch up to him. And Kendrick Nunn, I don't think we know. He went off in the rookie game though. He took over a couple minutes. Yeah,
and Jimmy Butler and everybody's be healthy, and that's a great point, Kane. So it's a completely different dynamic. Usually it's how deep of a team are you once you make it to the playoffs. You tend to rely on that. So it can go anywhere. It's going to be interesting regardless, but it's good to know the Bucks have home court for a while, and the Heat. Well, even though there won't be a home court, so that's the dynamic is off.
You see, I think if we play in Orlando, I realistically give Miami I think it's a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance to beat the Bucks. I think that confidence of being the only team to beat the Bucks twice regular season, I think that really carries over. I think that our team plays with a lot of confidence, and as long as we're running with that confidence, that really works for them. But I think we've seen it that if we don't have any confidence, we could be the worst team and we could lose to anybody. I mean, I think we lost to the Knicks, Hawks.
And Brook Lopez is a known Heat killer too.
Hey, Brook Lopez. By the way, I think that last game was one of the only games that he shot threes in, and also he's got a house in Disney, so he's basically is at home. So he's
home court.
Okay.
How is it having both brothers in Milwaukee?
Well, it's funny because in the locker room, their lockers could not be further apart. Now they're both apparently. Bud is the guy. Mike Budenholzer is the guy that chooses where the lockers go. So they deny that it had anything to do with them wanting to be separated. But no, they're really funny. Brook Lopez. This last season we learned was one of the funniest guys around in terms of the media. He's always laughing and having a good time. And now you've added Robin and his antics with the wrestling pregame and the mascots.
Fighting.
They've been a funny duo to have around.
Cool. And are you aware that the Miami Dolphins got Tua as their quarterback in the draft?
Yeah, I did catch that.
What are your thoughts on Tua?
In what do you guys call it, Aussie?
Well, we have Australian football. That's about to start up again, but it's a completely different game. I couldn't even try to explain it to you, but there's a really good YouTube video. So if anyone doesn't know what it is, you need to look that up. But the season's starting in a few weeks also, so you guys will be able to watch some live sports. But I'm actually I don't want to talk about the NFL because I'm actually a Texans fan, and I've boycotted this season after they traded.
Hey, they're still going to make the playoffs, though.
I'm a big Texans fan this year. I'm hoping
David Johnson.
I'm hoping that they have a horrible season because we have their pick. So the worse that they do, the better our pick is.
Well, I like trading away Hopkins though. He was demanding too much money, and Brandon Cooks might be the most brilliant move there.
He's one knock away. He's one head knock away from not playing.
Well, if Will Fuller is also healthy, and then Kenny Stills, like that's a nice trio you got there. And they only approved, I think, David Johnson. I mean, they might even bring Lamar Miller back. He's a free agent, right?
I don't know, man. I just 24 zip up on the Chiefs, and then a couple months later, you're trading away the best receiver in the game. It's a tough time. Tough time to be a Texans fan.
I guess so. But at least you got a quarterback in there, so that's nice.
It's true. He's always fun to watch. I'm happy we still have him for now.
He's no Brock Osweiler.
Oh man.
Well, going back to basketball, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think more teams are going to benefit from the coronavirus, from the months of off time, and the fact that if we continue the season, it's going to be in Orlando? Or do you think that a lot of teams are going to get out of shape? Because there's only so much you can do at home, and we all know that you can be fit. Andre Iguodala showed that you can still be super fit, but there's a difference between game fit and just athletically fit, right? So what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I think the two teams that stand out to me that have benefited from this, or maybe three teams, I'll say three teams, the two LA teams, because during the regular season, I was always thinking, how hard and how many minutes LeBron was playing at that age, at that year. Everyone gives him credit and says, well, this is incredible what he's doing. It's year 17. But I always thought it was kind of stupid that he was playing that much. The Lakers were really good. You want this guy healthy for the postseason. And I was just wondering how he was going to go all the way through to June. So now he's had 2 months off. We know he's got as good a work rate as anyone. He's going to be in great shape when he comes back. So I think LeBron is going to benefit from that. The Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George, these guys can't get enough rest. They're always banged up. They're always injured. So I think it's a good thing for the Clippers. And the other team is the Sixers. Ben Simmons didn't look like he was even going to play in the playoffs. Now he's had a couple of months to get healthy as well. So they're the three teams that stands out for me. I think
are those the three teams that the Bucks would probably be most worried about playing at any time?
You might be right. And maybe that's why I'm thinking of it from their point of view. But I think those three teams honestly stand out to me. A team like Miami, for instance, with the young guys, it's not going to matter with Bam. And they're young. They're going to be fine. To me, I think it's the veterans that might take a while to get going. And as you said, some guys are going to work really hard. Giannis is another guy, not at all concerned that he's going to come back out of shape. The guy's an absolute maniac. But you can't say the same about everyone around the league. There's going to be guys out there that have been sitting down playing 2K for 2 months and haven't done a thing. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Do you think Bam and Giannis are still working out right now or together?
Well, even if I knew, I think it's kind of illegal. I don't think I'm allowed to.
But that doesn't even scare you. The fact that the only person that Giannis works out with is Bam Adebayo.
No, because he's trying to help a young fella that isn't quite at his level yet, and potentially will never be at his level. Bam's basically just a fan, a Giannis fan, and Giannis is just a fan. So he's just a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Oh man, I can't believe this, man.
Let's say Giannis does come to the Heat eventually. Would you kind of like the Heat after that?
No. I don't think Miami are ever a team that I would look at and think, yeah, I want to support Miami. Who wants to support Miami? They got a great location. All the free agents want to go there all the time. Okay. It's like they don't need any more support.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of hatred with your Miami view, right? How far back does that date? Can't explain that to me, Kane.
I don't know. I once LeBron went there, it's kind of like, you know what? I actually really like the Miami teams with Shaq because I always loved Shaq. So I enjoyed watching those teams, and young Dwayne Wade was just like electric, just unbelievable to watch. But it got a bit old. It got a bit old in the LeBron years, I have to admit.
Wow. Your co-host of Locked On Bucks, he wrote a pretty interesting story. I don't remember the name off the top. I don't know if you want to give him a shout out real quick. Of the co-host for the Locked On Bucks. What's his name?
Yeah, Frank Madden.
Yeah, he wrote a pretty cool story about what if Jason Kidd was never the coach of the Bucks. I don't know if you read that. I think it was pretty interesting. Basically, like how much more successful the Bucks would have been. Do you think that that's true? Do you think that the Bucks really would have been more successful if Jason Kidd wasn't there?
Well, once things started to go pear-shaped, I think it fell off a cliff really quickly. But the good thing about Jason Kidd coming here is he did something that not many other guys would have done. And there's not many Bucks fans that want to give Jason Kidd any type of credit, but if you have to give him credit for something, it was the end of the 2015-16 season. The Bucks were terrible, and he said for the last 30 games, Giannis is going to be a point guard. I'm going to put the ball in his hands, and we're going to let him run the offense. Giannis finished the season racking up triple-doubles, these huge assist numbers, and it just brought out a different side in his game, gave him a different level of confidence. And I think learning from Jason Kidd, one of the best point guards that's ever played, I think was a real benefit for him. I think for the group in total, it didn't go well. And he didn't exactly have the best relationship with a bunch of young players in particular, and it fell away. And they reached a plateau where they weren't going to get any better. But I think individually for Giannis, those first couple of years in particular, it was a really good thing.
Yeah.
All righty. So I guess the show's wrapping up. We want to ask you one more question, and it won't have anything to do with the Heat, even though it might. In this case, besides anyone on the Bucks, and it seems like you like Joel Embiid, but who would you say is your favorite NBA player, maybe the next two favorite NBA players in the league?
Well, I always love watching Damian Lillard play, and there was a stretch this season prior to the lockout or the shutdown, I guess, there was 3 or 4 games in a row. I think he had a couple of 50-point games in a row, one game in particular against Utah. Lillard is a guy that he's must watch. And much like Steph Curry has been at times over the last few years, when Damian Lillard is hot and feeling it, he's incredible. And I just love watching him play. I mean, I'll never forget the shot against Oklahoma City last year in the playoffs. So I love Damian Lillard. And this was very, very recent, and everyone, it probably feels the same way, but I found myself tuning into literally every single Pelicans game just before the lockout with Zion. And it reminded me, the only player he reminded me of was LeBron when LeBron was in his early years with Cleveland, where you would just not miss a Cavs game to try and watch.
Polarizing.
LeBron was the same.
You think Zion Williamson's game is long term?
I mean, I'm concerned. That's a big fella. That's a big fella right there.
Yeah, right.
He's doing some stuff he shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, the fact that he's such a big guy doing things we've never seen. Somebody I don't want to say because he's not fat, because that's the thing. He's not fat. He's just girthy.
He's just like a football player.
He's a big bone guy, and the fact that they had to teach him how to not walk, but to walk in a better way for his knees, and his legs and stuff. I think that is a little bit concerning, But I think those are two of some of the most polarizing players that we have today. I would love to see Damian Lillard outside of Portland.
But that goes against what Zane likes. Zane likes small markets thriving.
I don't. I want him to stay there. I want him to have success in Portland. And the fans, the Portland fans, I always, feel bad for those guys when you think about the players they've had with Greg Oden, Brandon Roy. Marcus Aldridge left in free agency. I mean, they've had some pretty damn good teams and haven't been able to take the next step.
Yeah, and even against the Lakers, when they had Rasheed Wallace and Damon Stoudemire and all that, like that team, like they were close to going to the finals back in the late 90s.
Okay.
Alrighty, well,
it was awesome.
Kane, you were awesome. I mean,
it was honestly,
you took all of our hits.
I felt like we were just sitting down talking to a friend. It was cool.
Yeah, man. We appreciate it, man. So what time is it over there?
Hopefully we get to do this soon, because I see Bucks versus Heat. So hopefully we get to do this soon. We'll do one before and we'll do one after, so whoever loses, like we'll see it from their perspective of why that team lost or whatever. And don't worry, we're going to save you a shirt, a Bam Giannis 21 shirt.
It's gonna be tough to see you guys crying for 40 minutes.
I'm not gonna lie, I will cry, and I don't mind crying. On the internet, that's fine or whatever.
And we'll also send you a LeBron jersey, a LeBron Heat jersey.
That's cool. I can probably sell that. I can probably make some money. I appreciate
it. Hey man, but it was awesome, and honestly, hopefully that you stay safe. Hopefully we do see the Bucks make it far. I think that is that would probably be very good for the NBA to see the Bucks make it far. To see a small market team go that far, I think that's something that the NBA has been waiting for a little bit now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate it, fellas. Happy to talk anytime.
So
all right, Kane.
It was good, man, and we'll see you later, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Gotcha.